I really think that so many people want to do social media, but it really takes just passion to just, because it can take so long. There are people that are lucky that can blow up overnight, but for the most part, it just takes years, and you have to just kind of have to wait through it to get there.
Welcome to Elevate Utah.
Utah's #1 growth podcast.
I'm Court Brady.
I am Carlos Souza.
We interview the entrepreneurs of Utah, those making a big difference. And today we have Jane, just Jane, and Chris Williamson. Stoked to have you guys.
Just Jane.
Yay.
Just Jane.
You need a last
Just
name.
me.
Yep.
At Jane.
At Jane.
And we're pumped to have you guys. Super
Pumped
stoked.
to be here.
Yeah.
So fun.
Quick introduction of Chris and Jane. Chris is the founder of Legends Marketing.
Management.
Legends Management.
Yeah. We rebranded. So
It used to be marketing.
it used to be marketing.
Is it .com now?
Yeah. We got .com, which is great.
Amazing.
So that was honestly a huge reason why we did it. But we won't get into that.
I just sent emails to .com for Legends.
Yeah. Well, also, we had a lot of people reaching out, like brands that wanted to work with us. And I was like, oh, sorry, we only work with influencers. So I felt like it was essential to change it. Anyways, sorry, introductions.
And Chris works with the biggest influencers and brands in the finance space. And you guys just got back from Times Square this week, having one of your influencers on a billboard there, which is an amazing
it was
accomplishment.
Dope. Yep.
And I'm really impressed, actually, Chris. I did some research on you. You're at 14,000 followers on Instagram.
Can you believe that?
That's
Look at
impressive.
I'm grinding on Instagram.
I'm stoked, bro. You used to be at like 200.
It's all Jane. It has nothing to do with me. I don't even post.
And Jane, your social rap sheet's a little longer than the rest of ours combined. You have 1.4 million on Instagram, which is so freaking dope. I remember when you hit 1 million, and you hit one, that seems like yesterday. On YouTube, you have 4 million. On TikTok, you have 2.2 million. And almost every single video you post on TikTok gets millions of views. So crazy.
It's wild.
Some tens of millions of views.
I don't know about that.
And we're also best friends. So neighbors, and love you guys. Today we're going to talk about your guys' entrepreneurial journey, and then we're going to dive deep on how to create and monetize a personal brand, because I think there's a lot of people that see your journey and don't see how much work it took to get where you're at and say, I want to do that too. So we're going to talk about what it really took to get here and what people need to do if they want to build a brand. Guys, 4 years ago, you were working at KPMG, Chris.
Yep.
And Jane, no one knew who you were. And now we can't go anywhere without just a gaggle of girls just surrounding you guys. We came out of a jazz game the other night. It was like 150 swarm. Courtney got the video. I could not believe it.
Yeah, that was wild.
That was,
Everyone
That was like a whole
knows you
group.
guys.
that was so crazy.
Those ones are wild because
Yeah.
you'll see one person in the group like recognize her, and then it just like spreads.
It's wild.
And then she gets swarmed, which
So
is fun.
CEO of your own company, extremely successful. And Jane, everyone knows you wherever you go. You work with some of the biggest brands as well. Did you guys ever think that, this is where we're going to be in our late 20s, early 30s?
No, I don't think so. Did you?
I feel like you always envisioned this, to be honest. You would always say to me, like, I want someday to like be able to get big enough on socials that like you can quit your job and we can like travel the world. But I never wanted that.
No,
I was like, I'll never quit my job.
I know. No, I think that was absolutely my goal. But I think like the highest I ever thought I could grow would be to 200K. And that was like my goal. I was like, I think if you get to that point, I think that's where it can be like a full-time job. But yeah, it's wild. And we're super, super grateful.
Yeah.
Guys, I think everyone looks at you and says, look at this overnight success. Was there a breakthrough moment? Was there a moment of like, oh, we actually like may be onto something here?
I think there was, but it was not overnight. It was years and years and years. And a lot of people don't know that. And I feel like a lot of the success stories that happen with people blowing up on social media is overnight. I think COVID was a huge just catalyst for that, because all of a sudden everyone was home and TikTok became a big thing, especially during 2020. I think that's when Reels became a thing, and just video in general kind of became more mainstream for scrolling versus just photos. And I really think that was such a huge time that it just became way easier for people to grow. But no, a lot of people don't know is that I really worked and envisioned this for years and years before it finally blew up.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know, but Jane was like doing this for like 7 years. Like we first got married and she had like 3,000 followers on Instagram. And I honestly hated it. I didn't have any socials, and I was just like, it was rough because it was like everywhere we'd go, we'd have to like take a photo or do something. And I'm so against photos. So I was like,
yeah,
this
Chris
is the
was
worst.
really unsupportive.
So I was like really unsupportive at the start. And then also, I think it was tough with Jane's family too. Like, and I think my family, and it wasn't even just like, I don't know, not like negative because you were doing social media, but more so because I don't think they understood, you know, it's like, why are you taking your time to go do this? And for you, I think it was pretty unique because you loved making content. Like you were making no money at the beginning. It was just like, you loved going out and creating things, you know?
Yeah.
And you'd make really cool like pictures and stuff like that. And so anyways, yeah, I think a lot of people think it's just like an overnight thing. And like Jane had to pivot like several times. Like originally she was making these just crazy photos that were just like super unique. And then she started doing mom content as we started having kids. And then one day she's just like, I'm going to make this like Utah mom character. And I was like, that's the dumbest idea ever.
Yeah.
And it ended up just
like,
being
trust
insane.
me, I think this could be a thing.
Yeah. I was like, I don't think so. And then it just was so funny and it blew up. And then, yeah, to what it is now. James just comes up with all these different characters that we'll just start rolling with, which is fun.
So Chris, the way that you show up on the videos is not acting then. It's literally who you are.
You don't like
I shove a camera in his face and all of his reactions are genuine.
I think the first time that you like looped me into a video, I was trying to take down the Christmas tree. And literally, I'm like trying to take it down, and Jane's like putting this camera in my face as I'm like holding this tree, and I was just like, Jane, for the love, like, and I think that was like
honestly,
one of the first
I think
ones,
you
right?
accidentally became a character. And just kind of this iconic like idea of husbands, just because you're just like, can you please like stop, get this camera out of my face?
Well, I know there are so many husbands out there that when their wives are like trying to force them to take photos or do whatever, it's like the worst. So I feel like that's very relatable.
At Bear Lake when we were taking photos, oh my gosh, literally the worst. We're in the water. It's freezing cold at Bear Lake. Spin me around. As me and Courtney and you and Jane. And Jane says, I promise for the rest of our lives, I will never make you share a milkshake from LeBeau's with me ever again.
You
guys take that picture. An hour later, we're sitting at LeBeau's and Jane's sharing a milkshake with you.
Dude, that is the
literally
worst,
both of us. Every husband.
Like, I order a shake that I want to just eat for myself, and Jane's like, no, I'm good. And then she always wants to have
there's a lot of empty promises I've brought made over the years.
And what makes it worse is I like to have certain things in that shake and Jane doesn't, so then we just end up not having those things. The worst.
What was the first the first viral video that you had?
It would have been something with influencers.
Oh, it was November 1st.
No.
That was like the most viral.
For sure.
Like that one was like hundreds
Those are
of
my
millions
most
of views.
viral ever. But I started out poking fun at influencers. And honestly, I did it just to kind of poke fun at myself. Just because I was guilty of so many things. And I would scroll and like be annoyed by other things. And I was just like, I'm just going to try this. And it could either be so cringy or it could be something. And I remember the first time I did it, I think it got 100,000 or 200,000 views. And I think that's where, and that's where we were like, Kate, I think this could be something.
Yeah.
And then it progressed into more characters like Utah Mom.
Yeah.
But
I would
it
say
started
your
with
most
influencers.
viral, like the first viral video is when we did that first November 1st video.
Oh, for sure.
Because it was just like, holy crap. Because I think you grew like 60,000 followers on Instagram from that video.
Yeah.
And we were both like, this is insane.
Yeah.
because I think you only had around like 90 at the time. Because we had started experimenting with like that Utah mom character and stuff, and then when we did that November 1st video, it was like, holy cow, this is crazy.
Yeah, I think that for sure, that video kind of kickstarted my career.
And I think that's probably the ones you're most known for. Like we have so many people that are like, oh, I saw you on the November 1st video.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
We're going to put the links for those videos in the comment section so people can know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for you to, so that first video that you mentioned that you had a couple 100,000 views. So from when you started producing, creating content to that day, how long did that process take?
The process,
How long, you said there was one video that you had a couple 100,000 views. How long did it take for you to get to that first, like, this could be something?
Oh, was that like 5 years before?
Wow.
I think it was 5 years of you making content.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah, I would say it was 5 years of just grinding every day, constantly adapting, like Chris said. I first started out doing fashion, and it's funny because we were such broke newlyweds. I couldn't even like afford clothes in general. It got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to rebrand because we can't afford this. And really it changed multiple times. Once we started having kids, I tried to do the mom thing, but Chloe was such a hard baby and it felt so unnatural. I just realized I don't want to do this and this isn't fair to my baby. And this niche just isn't for me. And that's when I started doing creative photography. And then once Reels became a thing around COVID, that's when I started kind of doing more comedic mom content. And then, yeah, that was finally the niche that just really worked and blew up for me.
So 5 years of creating content without actually seeing material results.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And she had pivoted like several times. It wasn't all just like the same thing the whole time. But again, I think in Jane's case, it's like, if someone doesn't like making content, they're not going to stick around for 5 years doing that thing. You know, if it's like someone's purely in it just to like make money or whatever, it's going to be hard to stick around.
There's one point when I very first started 10 years ago, back when we were at BYU, Idaho. And I remember we were at your guys' apartment playing Mario Kart. And I had just started my blog. And I think it would get 12 views a day. Like it was so tiny, but I was so excited to just have this project and be immersed in it. And I remember just being like, hey, you guys play this game, like I'm going to sit out. And I just remember going through Pinterest, just trying to learn as much as I could about SEO and just tons of blogging stuff. And it's funny because I didn't really stick with blogging. But I really think that so many people want to do social media, but it really takes just passion to just because it can take so long. There are people that are lucky that can blow up overnight, but for the most part, it just takes years and you have to just kind of have to wait through it to get there.
Yeah. I think one of the dichotomies that exists, and I'm curious if you can touch on this, is people didn't get to see you guys before. Like we did. Like we got to play Mario Kart with you in Canasta and Hearts 7 years ago. And you guys are the same people. And oftentimes money changes people. Like people get a lot of money and they start thinking that they're better than other people and they start changing. And I wish people could see you guys before and realize, oh my gosh, they're exactly the same as they were before. Just fun-loving, giving, happy people. But I've also seen people around you change as they've perceived your success. And I'm wondering if you guys could talk to some of the hard parts about as you've grown. I know there's been comments online. I know there's been probably relationships that are different than they are, people that reach out that they know that you guys have money now. Can you guys talk to how you handle that?
I think it's tough because you and I have talked about this before, but I just think when you're trying to work your way up, if there are people that are like above you in life, whether that's like followers or they make more income or any of that stuff, they're cheering for you as long as you're still kind of below them in that race. But as soon as you like pass them, I think that's when you kind of find your true friends. Because if they're still cheering for you and wanting you to do well, it's like, hey, that person is truly a friend. But then you start to see a lot of people that like aren't happy for you anymore. You know what I'm saying? And so for us, I appreciate you saying that. I hope we try and just still be who we were before. Obviously we've changed in other ways and like grown and matured, but like, we still just try and like have our close friends and still hang out with them. But, I think to touch on that though, it's like, we've kind of had to navigate, like once you start having a level of success, there's like people that are coming to be around you for ulterior motives. And like, that's something we've had to navigate that we weren't necessarily like, I don't know. I just never thought that would really happen to us, you know? It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just different where Jane's become like more famous and just having people come up to her and stuff like that. It's like, there's people that want to get around her for ulterior motives than just like being a friend. And it's like something we just have to navigate now, but I don't know. I'm sure other people have stuff like that too, but
I think that's for sure been tricky. I definitely was not expecting that. I feel like they say don't meet your heroes. And I look over the past few years of people that I've met who I just looked up to so much and I loved them and they were so awesome. And then once I started growing, those relationships really changed. And I feel like that was really just hard for me to experience just because I was like, wait, I love you so much. And you were so kind to me, but like now it just doesn't feel like that kindness is there anymore. And I really do believe that you find out who your true friends are, like just people that are happy for you and cheer you on. Like, I think it's just like important to stay true to those friendships. I feel like success can really hinder just your focus and it's easy to let go of friendships and relationships. Yeah. And like in the end of your life, like your relationships are the most important thing.
Yeah. I think that point is so true. Everyone wants you to be successful. They just don't want you to be more successful than them. Yeah. Shout out to the biggest hype man I know is Reed Hyatt. Oh, I hope he listens to this podcast. He is the most genuinely excited person for anyone's success of anyone
He's
that
so
I've ever
awesome.
met. I love Reed. I try to follow that example.
On that subject, kind of going on a tangent. You of course have those people around you that are behaving like that, but as you grow and become more successful, there's a lot of criticism online, right? I'm pretty sure there's people that love you a ton, and everywhere you go, they're trying to take a picture with you, but also online, there's always those haters. How do you deal with that? Do you just not look at it? Do you actually go? I'd just love to hear a day in the life of how to deal with those.
You know, I will say one thing that's really helpful is hate on any of my comedy does not bother me at all because all of my content is completely satirical. So people can hate on Utah Mom or Influencer or Karen or Crunchy as much as possible, but like it's literally a character that I'm playing. And I think, you know, there's some people that'll make fun of my appearance and I feel like that sometimes can be a little annoying, but I feel confident in who I am. And so for the most part, I feel like hate doesn't bother me. I would say it's hard if I post something being myself, me being a mom with my kids, mom shaming, I feel like just drives me nuts. But I've just learned if you can just let it pass 5 minutes later, I can't even remember what the comment was. And I think just not ever responding to hate is so huge because most times when people are hating, they just want to get a reaction. They want you to get upset.
Yeah. I feel like Jane will come talk to me sometimes when she sees like hate comments and I'll just kind of talk her down where I'm just like, if you respond, you like give this person power. If you don't respond, there's like literally nothing they can do. And I just think that's kind of the best approach with social media. I heard Alex Hormozy have like a whole take on that one time and I think he's absolutely right. It's like, I just don't think it's worth it to respond to hate stuff because it doesn't do anything but give that person power in your life and they start to affect you. And Jane's gotten really good at just like, and just letting it like roll off her back.
I think a big thing too is that people that are hating and commenting hateful things are just so sad and so unhappy in life. Yeah. And that's something I try to take a step back to just be like, okay, they must just be going through it in order to comment this thing. And I really think it adds more, like it just makes it so that it doesn't affect you as much.
Chris, I want to ask you something that is a problem that only a few people in the history of the world ever go through. You, hopefully this isn't getting too personal. If it is, we'll edit it out and move on.
Take it out of the podcast, dude. Yeah.
But I think it's really, really important, and people do go through this process, whether it's in their 30s or whether it's in their 50s or 60s. But you got to a point where you had these financial goals, financial aspirations, and you hit them. And then it was like, okay, what is next? We're like, what is going to drive me? Where's my ambition coming from? Because I've gotten to this checkpoint. And over the last, so that was maybe 6 months ago, and over the last month or two, it's just seemed like, man, you're on fire. Like you got purpose, you have drive, you got all that back. That dog that was inside of you is back, in addition to the new wisdom and maturity. I'm curious if you could talk through that process and what brought that desire back.
Yeah. I feel like both of us were kind of feeling that to some degree, because it's hard, man. I feel like for a lot of ambitious people, they have this goal set in life and they want to hit this specific thing, and then they start grinding, and then once you get there, it's just kind of like, okay, well, what's next? And you kind of, for me, a lot of my drive was like, I want to hit this certain level of income to provide for my family, all that kind of stuff. And then once I got there, I was just like, okay, well, now what? And for me, where I kind of directed my goal instead of more on income stuff was just like building a team and like helping people around me start to grow in wealth as well. And I found that was something that like really has motivated me and become like my new driver. And it's just, I don't know, that has brought like fulfillment to me. And so I think for anyone else who kind of hits that situation, it's not as much, I don't think it's a one problem or like one solution fits all kind of thing. Like you just have to kind of dig deep and just figure out like what is something that drives you. And that's kind of what's worked for me.
I think something crazy the past few years is we've both realized that money is not our motivator.
Yeah, for sure.
And
for sure. Like, of course you want to make money, you want to provide for your family. It's nice to get nice things. But yeah, I don't think that's what drives us in life. Yeah. And I feel like it's been interesting kind of learning what that is for the both of us. Yeah. I still don't even know what it is for you. I know that you love, I do. I think it's creating. I think creating is what drives you. Like you love just creating joy. And like just like the passion you have when you like, even today you were just like, hey, come look at this reel I just made. And then like, what do you think? And you're just like tinkering with it. I do want to give a shout out to Jane. I think she's super underrated for this, but her editing is unbelievable. I think that is a lot of what has made her like super successful. Like she is hilarious in her reels and she does such a good job acting out all this stuff. But like when we do filming with her, so we film like every Thursday and I'll be there and we'll kind of brainstorm in the morning with us and our videographer, come up with the idea for the reels. And Jane will usually kind of lay out like a platform, like an idea for it, and then we're all kind of coming in just with like different ideas on like what happens throughout it. But we'll start filming this thing, and I'm just like, this is not going to turn out. Like, what the heck is this thing? And then, but Jane has like this vision that she sees what's going to happen, and then she edits that thing together. And when I see it, I'm like, holy crap, this is hilarious. And I think a lot of that comes from the editing. So. Anyways, I just wanted to give you a shout out on that.
That's so nice.
I totally derailed the conversation.
It was so fun to see that in Cabo when you did I don't remember which clip it was, but you did the head dunking.
Oh, yeah.
I just died watching the creative process. It was such a treat.
It's so funny, man. The filming is like my favorite part. Like it's so funny to watch behind the scenes on it. But
it is funny brainstorming. We did a Crunchy Mom the other day, and Chris and our videographer, honestly, it used to just be me kind of brainstorming and figuring out the whole script, but I feel like Chris is way more creative than you would think. He has like really amazing ideas, and our videographer too. And we were doing a montage where all of my characters meet, and you guys just went off. Like, dude, in this idea that Crunchy Mom is actually a vampire.
Okay. This is funny.
Wait, is this released or is
No. We didn't end up doing it.
This is too much.
Bonus content.
Oh my gosh. I was dying of laughter at this idea. And I'm still thinking we should do it at some point. But essentially, the Utah mom got like a gift, a mirror for Christmas. And it was like a gift. And she's like looking at herself in the mirror. And all of a sudden she looks behind her. And the Crunchy Mom is standing behind her. But the Crunchy Mom mom doesn't show up in the mirror, and then the crunchy mom's like, oh, that mirror's not organic. That's why I don't show up in it. And then throughout the episode, there's just more things that like hint at crunchy mom being a vampire, but it's like not a typical vampire. It's just one that is like, anyways. You guys don't get it.
I was like, this is too much for a 60-second reel. Like, this is really deep in the lore.
We were dying, but that's how we'll come up with some really funny ideas. Like, well, what's one that me and Bird came up with recently that was like, I feel like there was one that we came up with that was just like golden. Oh, I can't remember.
More golden than that.
That was my best idea. For sure, dude, for sure. No, I feel like me and Bird will take things to like an extreme, and then Jane has a way of like bringing it
wait,
back
guys,
to where it
Crunchy
works.
Mom can't be a vampire. She loves garlic.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, I'll tell you one that I thought was hilarious. In one of her last reels, the Crunchy Mom's being like hunted down by Karen, and when she comes out, all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 and she just gets hit with like 3 freaking tranquilizers. That was my idea, dude. I was dying at that. I thought that was so funny. But we've got a lot of content just from like The Office and stuff. Like we love The
Honestly,
Office.
yeah,
So a
we
lot
get
of our stuff's
so much
inspired
inspiration from like Office and then all of the Christmas classics. I think you came up with this, but Elf, the Etch-a-Sketch of the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, that was me.
We did that in my November 1st video.
Yeah, that one was super funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hilarious. But I mean, I just took it from Elf, but yeah.
It seems like the process, so going back just a second, of getting to this point where you can create forever. Like you have one group of people that are creators, and then they have monetization that comes from that, and it's this infinite game that you're playing because you are already satisfied and already fulfilled creating, and now the money is just coming along with that, and you can keep creating. Versus how I think I started my company, and how I think you started your company, Chris, of I just want this financial outcome.
Yeah.
And it's very me-centric of how do I do this for me? And I came to a very similar conclusion that fulfillment after that first accomplishment of how do I get myself here is how do I get other people there.
Yeah.
And I think most entrepreneurs fall into one of those two categories. They're either creative from day one, or they're going to accomplish something. They're accomplishment driven.
Yeah.
And then they bring other people along with them.
Yeah.
To continue their fulfillment.
Yeah, I completely agree, dude. Because I'm definitely not a creative person, so I got to be in the other bucket.
That is not true.
I don't think that's true.
I'm just saying you were playing a finite game. You had an end goal in mind of I'm doing this to get this.
Yeah. I agree.
Guys, do you think this process that you went through, Jane, is repeatable and teachable, or do you feel like, oh, maybe I just got lucky because I didn't give up?
No, I don't think so at all. When I first started out almost 10 years ago, I remember feeling so discouraged, thinking, I'm 10 years late. I should have gotten in 10 years before, because that's where all of the OGs come from.
Yep.
And I really feel like video marketing, just that's happened in the past few years, has changed the game forever, and anyone can make it. But there's certain things you need in order to do it, because like one thing that's so important is being unique from everyone else. Everyone could be a mom blogger or some sort of guru or a makeup artist, or everyone has talents, but if you do something that millions of other people are trying to do the same thing, it's going to be really hard to make it. And so I think you need to have something that sets you apart. But I really believe that the space is so open now, and that anyone can become a creator and can monetize it.
I had someone come to me and comment the other day, like, hey, don't you feel like a bit embarrassed that you guys are only getting 80 views, 100 views? And I'm like, bro, that's 79 more than I expected. I thought that only my mom would watch it. Yeah. So then that's because we love hanging out, and we love hanging out with people like you guys and having good conversations. We don't even look at the views sometimes. We forget to look at
think that exact mindset is what prevents so many people from going into social media. Because it's embarrassment, man. It's like, dude, I'm making this whole reel and I get 3 views on it. Okay, I'm done. I'm quitting. Like, dude, that is literally the mindset that prevents people from blowing up.
I completely agree. And I feel so passionate about this because when I was starting out for years, I felt so embarrassed. I thought, oh my gosh, what are people from my high school thinking of me? What are my parents thinking of me? What are my cousins thinking of me? Like, it feels really embarrassing, especially because I think it's a lot more common now that people have seen, you know, what life could be like with like social media, and people are seeing that it can be a job. And so I think it's a lot more common that people are trying to do it now. But I feel like 10 years ago, it was really taboo and it was embarrassing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this guy's trying to be an influencer. Like.
But you know what is so funny? I remember I posted a makeup tutorial and it probably had, maybe 100 views on it or less. I was really, really small at the time. And I remember, Court, you asked me and you were like, oh, Jane, like, let me see it. And Courtney was like, oh, did you see this? And I remember you watched it with me right there. And I was mortified. I felt so embarrassed and so cringed. And after that happened, I realized if I am feeling this way and I'm not proud of the content I'm making and I'm too embarrassed for it to be shown in front of someone, then there's something wrong here, because like the content you produce, you should be 100% proud of it. If it goes up on a big screen and everyone is watching it with you, you should think like, yeah, that's my work. And I'm proud of that. And I feel like after that, that's when I really started to change my mindset and become more proud of like the content I was creating. And I honestly feel like that confidence alone can really just help you grow.
Do you feel like that was a mindset shift of I'm just going to be proud of whatever I produce? Or do you feel like it changed your content, that your content got better and then you felt proud of it?
I would say both. I would say the confidence absolutely needed to change, because I could have just been embarrassed regardless of anything I was producing. And so I feel like I needed to give myself that like affirmations of like, no, this is good content. And like I'm proud of this. I'm working for this to become something. So I need to have the confidence behind it. But I did think to myself, okay, if I'm producing this content and it's not good and it doesn't make me laugh or I feel cringed watching it, then other people will feel that too. And so I feel like that did kind of shift my content creation as well.
It's funny that you share that, because that, like, we were at your guys' house, around your guys' fire in your new place, and it was like you watched one of the videos or said, hey, pull one of these up, and I felt the exact same thing that you described feeling with me and Courtney in Rexburg. It's like, oh my gosh, Jane's watching my video and she's giving feedback.
Really?
Like, this is honestly horrible. Like, why did I post this at all?
That's so funny.
Out what I do next in life. But you gave me some super, super good feedback, and I'm wondering if you could share that with the audience as you think about production, a 60-second reel. If you can just talk through, what are you trying to capture? The thumbnail, the verbiage, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, and then talk through the first 5 seconds, the reel itself, and then the close.
Yeah. I would say when I'm creating a reel, the first thing I will think of is, okay, what is this going to be about? What am I going to name this? What's kind of the subject, the purpose of the reel? And then from there, creating a script. And maybe it's different if it's not comedy. Maybe you don't need a script. But I would say, honestly, the most important part of the entire video is having a really good hook in the first 3 seconds, and that will make or break a video. And if you have really awesome content 15 seconds in, but the first 15 seconds don't have any sort of hook, that video will not go anywhere.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the time we don't even live by our own advice with that, because we're just like, because we'll have videos that you post where I'm like so proud of like the content in it, because it's like we came up with some hilarious ideas, but we just like didn't have a good hook. I honestly feel like that's why November 1st has been so good, because it's just like she'll always start off with like Happy Halloween, and then she'll just like throw up like a tree
Christmas
or like a wreath or just something so dramatic, and I think it just hooks people like right away. And those videos always do so well, like hundreds of millions of views on them. So we got to do that more.
I know. I figured out a hook of flipping out of my bed to start my day. And it's crazy because I think it's just shocking, and that makes a good hook.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't always follow our advice, but the hook is so important, and then the ender. I always try to put a hook in the ender so that people, if they make it through the whole video and then something really shocking or funny or crazy happens at the end, it's crazy enough that someone will think, I am going to watch this entire video again to make it to the ending.
Yeah.
And I honestly think just that magical sandwich is just so, it's just like the recipe for creating a video that's going to be successful and viral. And
we got to follow that recipe more. I feel like a lot of time we just meet up Thursday
Sometimes
mornings
we
and
get
we're
it.
just like, let's send it on this, you know? I do want to mention one other thing too. Early on when Jane started doing the Utah Mom, she would say to me like, oh, I don't know if I should do another one of these. Like, I feel like my audience is getting sick of it. But the way that I viewed it was like, we've watched The Office like 12 times and it's like, I don't get sick of those episodes. And and it's the same characters every time. It's Michael, Dwight, Jim, everyone's the same. And it's like, they're able to keep that show going. And so the way I viewed it was like, yeah, the Utah Mom is just a character. And so as long as we have her doing different things and being in different scenarios, your audience isn't going to get sick of it. I think that's the other thing that I want to say is people who are trying to make it as like creators. I think a lot of times they'll find something that works really well. And I see this with a lot of creators that I work with on YouTube. They'll find something that works super well and then they'll double down on it. But then after a while, they start to get bored of whatever that thing is. And so they start to change it up. And then they see their views decrease. And they're always like, oh, dude, what is it? I got to redo my channel or whatever. It's like, no, I think you just went away from the thing that your audience knows you for and what you were really good at doing and what kind of set you apart. And so it's like, you just got to go back to that. And you may be getting bored of it to some degree, but your audience isn't getting bored of it, you know? Anyways, sorry.
I think experimenting is huge. Like Chris said, I really worry about audience fatigue all the time. And I struggle so badly with imposter syndrome. And I'll just think, okay, Utah Mom is done. I can't think of another Utah Mom idea. People are sick of this. I need something new. And I definitely think, like, yeah, you're right. The Office, like some of the most classic shows ever. People love it because of that. But there are people that went viral with an idea 4 years ago, and 4 years later, they're still trying to do the same exact thing, and it's not working well for them. And I think experimentation is so key. There have been characters that I've been really nervous to try out, but I've tried it, like Karen and Crunchy Mom. And I have the mentality, okay, this will either work or it won't. And if it doesn't work, then that's great, and at least we know, and we can try something else. But a lot of times those ideas really work well. Yeah. And then they just become a whole nother character that we can expand upon.
Yeah.
Guys, how lucky is it just for all four of us that we get to do exactly what we want every day and the world rewards us highly for it.
That's amazing.
It's such a
super
gift.
fun.
It's so fun.
It's wild to me, man. Like I got my master's degree in accounting. I didn't even know this world existed. I didn't even know you could do this for a living, man. It's like, oh, I get to manage influencers and like run brand deals with them. And Jane gets to just make videos. Like, I had no clue. I was like, I'm going to be an accountant for the rest of my life and just be trying to become a partner at this firm. And like, that's what life is, you know? But
can I double click on something that you both mentioned when creating content? And I think this is extremely valuable. I mean, they're creating content and creating a business. What you're doing is a business, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. But there's just so many similarities. And there's a question that I've struggled with for so long, which is, how do I know if I'm just being stubborn, or the question is actually
pivot or persevere.
If I should pivot or if I should actually continue grinding on this thing. I feel like that's the hardest question that I've struggled with for so long. How do you know if you're just being stubborn, or if you're actually persevering when creating content, and when is the right time to pivot? Pivoting many times like you did. I think you guys, if you could touch up on that.
Jane, I think the proper way to pivot is Jane would try things, but she wouldn't deviate from whatever content she had committed to at that time. So yeah, Jane was doing mom content, and then she said, I'm going to try doing a Utah Mom and see if that works. And then she did that, and it worked really well. So then we doubled down on the Utah Mom. So I think the answer to that question is, don't just like fully send it on a pivot unless you know it's going to work. Like, stick with what you know is working and then try different things. And if one of those things are working, then pivot. I think the ultimate thing is just like, don't quit, because like if you quit on doing your content, then you have 0% chance of getting to where you want to go with it. Right.
Something that's really interesting though, is the first time I ever tried doing a skit, I remember feeling so scared because it was just so out of my comfort zone. I had never ever even posted videos before. It was just photos on Instagram. And I was so just nervous, but then it worked. But I'm thinking back and I'm like, if it didn't work, would I have just given up?
I don't think so. I think
because that makes me so sad to think like, what if it didn't work and then I just gave up and I never created videos? Yeah. And so I think if there's something you're passionate about, and comedy is a passion of mine. I have a big family. I have 7 siblings, and we loved The Office growing up, and I love to laugh, and I just love comedy. And growing up, I was never, people will ask me like, did you do acting lessons growing up? Did you do theater? And I would try out for all the plays and I would never get a part. They would just tell me like, you have the voice, but you don't have the acting skills. And growing up, I just believed that about myself. I just thought, okay, I'm not an actor. I'm not going to be in theater. I don't know how to act. But I had 7 siblings, 10 people in my family, and I would do impressions. So like, in Elf, the narwhal, he'd be like, bye buddy, hope you find it out. My family would always, I could just do it well when I was little, and my family would always be like, Jane, say this thing. And I learned that I was good at impressions. And so it's interesting because even though I didn't act growing up, I knew that I could do impressions. And so I think it's important, if you are going to pivot and try something, and you fail the first time, to just keep on trying it until you know, okay, like this really, I'm going to look at the metrics. I'm going to look at the reach, the watch time. And if this is showing reoccurring, just people not being interested, then maybe after, a month of trying that, or after trying it 25 times, then you think, okay, this idea doesn't work and I'm going to try something else. But it does make me so sad to think, if that first video didn't pop off, would I have just given up? And I hope that I wouldn't have.
But also, I think the bar was so low for you at that time, where it's like, if that video got 50,000 views, that would be considered popping off, right? So you're just like, sick, you know? So,
Jen, there was one thing that you said that reminded me of a question that I had. You said that you were looking at the reaches, the metrics, and then I actually had a question. Is it art or science to create content? Or can you touch a little bit of that? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's both. I think that you have to have the creativity and you have to create something of value. And that is so important. That's another thing where it's, yes, you need to be unique in order to, have your own thing. But everything, all the time, I'll be scrolling on my feed and I'll see an influencer post something and it won't do well. And I just think, this does not provide any value. Posting, and not all the time, but it's like someone posts an outfit, what they're wearing today. Like, no, that's just not valuable content where someone's going to be moved by it or laugh at it or be entertained by it or inspired by it. And I think that's so important with creating content, is to ask yourself, is this valuable content that someone will be able to appreciate? And I think that's really what can make or break content. But I do think analytics are so important, because that's how you can really find out if something is working or not. Watch time is really important. Reach, impressions. A big thing that's important is how much of my audience is seeing this versus people who don't follow me. How many followers did I gain from this one post? I think those are all things that can really help guide you in content creation.
As you were talking earlier about pivoting or persevering, you guys know the book Good to Great, Jim Collins. He talks about this analogy, and he says, when you're trying to find something out, first fire bullets. And then he talked about 2 ships, right? If another ship, you're going into battle, another ship comes and you start firing all your cannonballs, but you miss, then you're out of cannonballs. So instead of firing cannonballs first, fire your bullets. Then you're going to get dialed in. And then when your bullets start hitting the ship, then you start firing cannonballs. And I realized that I've totally misinterpreted that analogy to the point where I was like hating that the analogy existed in the first place. Because the way that I thought about it is I just need to fire a bunch of bullets in a ton of different directions and then see what hits. And if you think about it like drilling for water, drilling for oil, if you just drill down 5 feet and then go to the next place and, there's no oil there, no water there, and you go to the next place and drill down another 5 feet and another 5 feet, another 5 feet, then you end up quitting it because nothing is actually working. And so I loved what you talked about, how, and Chris, you mentioned this as well, of I'm going to post 25 things on here and see if it hits, or I'm going to do this and do this and do this, and then add something to it, but not abandon my prior plan until I know that this next plan is working as well. And is such a, thank you for highlighting that. I'm curious about how you get into a flow state. Do you feel like you get into flow when you're creating? What is the creative process? Like, do you have headphones in? Are you in your office? Do you go on walks? Like, walk us through how you get these original ideas.
Yeah, so we film once a week, and me, Chris, and our videographer will sit down and brainstorm. I will normally have not scripts. I'll have ideas, different ideas. So it'll be like, Karen runs into Utah moms at Costco, just a couple different ideas. And I'll sit down with them and I'll say, okay, let's create the script. And normally I'll have a baseline of different things I want to happen. And honestly, I feel like I leave brainstorming sessions really frustrated and nervous sometimes. And I swear it's once we turn that camera on and we just start going, that is what gets me into a flow. And that's where it's like, oh my gosh, what if we did this? What if Crunchy Mom literally jumps from this banister? What if like Crunchy Mom goes on the roof? Like, could we do this? Could we make this work? And I would say filming is where I feel the best flow. And that, honestly, I think that's my passion, and that's where I get the most fulfillment out of this whole entire thing, is just creating, not even seeing numbers. It's if we film 3 videos in a day and I feel proud of them, like that is the most fulfilling thing ever. I would say editing is harder to get in the flow state because editing just takes over my life. And we've had editors before, but it's so granular with comedy because it's down to the millisecond that can make or break something. So editing kind of takes over my life, and sometimes it's hard to sit down and to just think, okay, I need to edit 10 videos. It takes me 2 hours to edit each one. This feels so daunting. So I would say I do have to be in the right location for that. It's hard for me to be at home, so we rent out an office space. It's hard when I'm around my kids because I want to be with my kids and my kids are knocking on the door, so I'm definitely more distracted versus when I'm in the office space with closed doors. I can just do my crazy voiceovers and just kind of start editing into a flow state.
Yeah, Jane will pretty much wait until the very last minute, procrastinate as long as she possibly can until our brainstorming meeting, and then we'll come up with stuff. And then we get to a point where it's like, hey, let's just go film this thing. Like once we have like a basic outline of what's going to happen, we just go film it, and then we'll just come up with like random crap like while we're filming. So it's not as like, we probably could be a lot more granular and just be like, let's have this whole thing scripted out or whatever, but that's not how we operate.
It's really hard for me to sit down and script things. Yeah. I would say like 90% of my ideas will come to me at 2 a.m. and I'll like wake up and write a note in my phone, or I'll randomly be scrolling and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to use this. And I'll put influencer, does this. And I would say that's where most of my ideas come from. And so that's kind of the base it'll give me when we do go into our brainstorming sessions, but it's really hard for me to just write a script outright.
Yeah.
Jane, there's we get to see your guys' life up close. We're in your house all the time, and you guys are amazing parents. I think there's a ton of pressure, specifically on moms. So this question's for you. You have this business, Jane is this big thing that's been created, and it takes a lot of your time. You're also an awesome mom. Can you talk to how, I think there's a lot of pressure on moms, specifically in Utah, if they're working, to either work less and be a mom more, or the moms that want to be working, there's a lot of pressure it's just tricky and precarious. Can you talk about any advice that you give to other moms and how you've navigated that balance?
Yes, I don't think I'm perfect at it. I would say every day of my life, I'm just fighting to find more of a work-life balance. And especially because things have gotten so crazy, which I'm so grateful for. But I do feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just missing my kid's life sometimes. And that can be really hard. And all the time to Chris, I'll just say like, I really want to cut back. Like, how can I cut back? How can I outsource this? Or should I just like let it go and just quit? But it's hard because I know that if I was a stay-at-home mom, I would want to be doing something. Someone who inspires me a lot is my mom. She had 8 kids, including 2 sets of twins. And she was a stay-at-home mom growing up, but she was also an interior designer. And she would do that on the side. And I just remember looking at her growing up and just thinking like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a mom so badly, but I want to have a thing and like a side hustle that I can do. And I think that's how it started. But then it just blew up so quickly that it became a full-time thing. It became a 40-hour-a-week thing. So I don't know if I have great advice just because I'm still trying to navigate that and to figure it out. I want to be with my kids more and I love what I do, but I think editing is probably the biggest thing that makes me feel like, okay, I have so much work to do. It's so time consuming. So, but I do think there's so much pressure on stay-at-home moms, working moms. And I think that's hard for me sometimes because it's almost like I want to be perceived as a stay-at-home mom to my parents and to Chris's parents and to my friends, because I do think there's a stigma if you're working, like, are you giving your kids enough time? And my kids are like the most important thing in my whole life. And like, they are my priority, but I do think there's a lot of judgment that just comes with moms no matter what you do. And I honestly think it's just important to block it out. And it's like, as long as you know you're a good mom and you are doing the best for your kids, then that's all that matters.
Well, public shout out to you guys. We get to see how amazing you guys are as parents. I only have one question left. Carlos, do you have anything before I ask the famous last question?
One more question. I feel like we've only had, this is probably episode 61 or 62, and maybe 10% or maybe 6 to 7 people have sat across from them and their eyes were just shining as they talked about their business. And that's how I felt with both of you today. And just like as Jen, as you're going through the process that you go through and filming and all of that, your eyes are just shining. So I'm sure whatever you guys are setting out for, you're going to accomplish it, because as I know there's some science to it, but the heart of what you guys are doing is just incredible. And I think that's probably the secret sauce of what you're doing is your love for what you do is so I'm sure it's going to create, you guys are going to accomplish whatever you want. And that is my question. What is next? What are you guys aiming for with your businesses?
I can go first.
Yeah.
Right now for me, I'm wanting to scale Legends and just really bring on more people and just build a team, just like a solid team of A players. Like, I don't know. I just have this vision for what I want it to be. And I don't know. I've been in places in my life where there's just like this magic and this feeling of like, oh, we're all building towards something. And I want to like recreate that. And so that's kind of the vision that I have for Legends right now. And we're in a really good spot to actually make that happen, and been seeing some good progress there. And then for Jane, I don't know. What do you think?
I would say growth is for sure a goal of mine. I would like to, like I said earlier, find a better work-life balance. I do want to be with my kids more, so I'm trying to navigate that. A big goal that I have for the future is creating my own company.
Yeah.
And honestly, we've been kind of navigating that for a couple of years now, and some stuff is in the works, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
So I think that's our next.
Are you gonna give us a preview, or is it still in the
No,
works?
it's still in the DL.
All right.
Yeah.
Still in the DL.
That was gonna be our.
had to ask.
That was gonna be our drop.
Yes.
Our clickbait.
Okay, we're just gonna have you guys like mock a fight real fast instead, and
Here we go.
we'll use that for the header.
Yeah.
Guys, I have to set the record straight on one thing. When we were in Mexico with you guys, we literally were sitting there eating dinner, and we looked over, and there's a girl watching Jane's videos. When we
That
were in
was
Cabo, early
hilarious,
on.
dude.
I just want to set the record straight. And then Jane tapped on her shoulder, and the girl could not believe that Jane was actually there.
That was
and then
wild,
the girl
bro.
was from Mexico. Like, she wasn't even from the U.S.
That was
On
crazy.
that, the way I found out about you, Jane, was I was living in Brazil, and I was just scrolling through social media, and then there's this video where this guy just runs by and he's showing his middle finger, and I'm like, I think that's Court. And then I run
I have
to.
my permission to post that one.
Wasn't there like an emoji made of that on your guys' Slack or
That's
something?
Courtney's permission.
That's so funny.
Proxy for me.
So,
So
you know,
funny.
you're in Brazil.
Oh my gosh,
You're-
that is
that's
crazy.
incredible.
Honestly, yeah, that moment was like by far one of the most surreal moments of my whole career. Really cool.
Yeah, that was.
All right, Chris, we asked you this question. What was your advice? What would your advice be to your earlier self? Do you remember what you said when you were on the podcast? I can tell you. I looked
actually
it up.
don't remember, dude.
You said my advice to. You said I wouldn't go back and say like don't get a master's or don't change these things because I love where I'm at now and the path brought me here.
Yeah.
What I would say to anyone starting out is find somebody that has the exact life that you want and
Yeah.
shadow them and
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
out like, do I want to do this for a career? And if the answer is yes, then get an education if you need, or don't do whatever the process is to get there.
Good advice.
Which is great advice. Jane, if you were sitting across from an earlier version of Jane, what would you tell her? And what version of Jane is that you'd be sitting across from? How old? What is she going through?
Probably 20 years old. I had just gotten married, and I had just seen what a content creator could do. I remember scrolling on my feed, seeing a girl post a picture with Urban Outfitters, and she said #ad. And I thought, wait, what? This brand is one of my favorite brands at the time, like this, they're paying her to just post. And I remember like it blew my mind, and I was like, this could be a possible career. Cause yeah, I'd never heard of it before. And that's really kind of where my drive started, where I was just like, I want to do something I'm passionate about, and hopefully the money will come at some point. I would tell myself, my 20-year-old self, it does not matter if there is not one person supporting you in this. As long as you have faith in yourself, this can happen. And you need to spend every single day envisioning the success for yourself, and just manifestation is absolutely real, and it might take years, but do not stop grinding because it will pay off at some point. And I would tell myself your relationships with people will be affected by this, either for better or for worse, and that's something to be aware of. But yeah, honestly, as cliche as it sounds, don't give up, because it took truly 5 years for me to see any compensation, and it was the most worth it thing in the world.
That's amazing.
We're so grateful that you guys have spent the afternoon with us. I love you guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Guys, thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
It's a rapper.